This is San Diego Panorama, the weekly program of people, places, and events that help to shape our community. Today, nor any drop to drink. Alcoholism.
Where do you want me?
We'd like to step right up to the bars here.
Okay, so it's all right. It was just a little celebration. I only had a couple of beers.
Yes, sir.
Just
Turn
two.
and face the bars, please.
Whatever you say. That was the biggest sale in the history of my company.
Yes, sir.
It was good.
Right up the aisle.
Okay. Look, you won't tell me about this, huh?
No, we'll let you do that.
No, you're not going to call my wife.
No, sir. Step right on up there.
Don't call my wife. It was a good sale, huh?
Yes, sir. It was.
I don't know why you hadn't picked me up. I promise you don't call my wife anybody, huh?
No, sir. We'll let you do that.
I'm all right. I don't want to call anybody. Okay.
Okay, face me.
Yeah. You gonna take the handcuffs off?
Take the handcuffs off.
I'm all right. I won't do anything.
That's good.
I only had 2 beers. Why should I do anything?
Only 2 tonight.
That's all. It was just a celebration. That's all. 2 beers.
This is Calvin Miller.
I made the biggest
He is a
sale in the
businessman.
history of the company.
He has a family. He is successful.
Can I have a cigarette?
He was arrested for drunk driving.
I'll be all right.
Okay.
I had 2 beers. Not so much.
In 1971, in San Diego, 8,159 men and women were arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol. The National Council on Alcoholism reports that nearly half of those arrested were full-fledged alcoholics. Alcohol is legal. It is an addictive drug. It is both acceptable and readily available.
Deserve more than 2 beers.
Calvin Miller is a functioning alcoholic. At the present time, there are 74,000 functioning alcoholics in San Diego County.
Good.
For them, for the Calvin Millers, there can be nor any drop to drink.
Big sale. 2 beers.
The population of Greater San Diego is 1,200,000 people. Most of these people hold jobs, go to school, or tend to the day-in, day-out tasks of housekeeping in one way or another. San Diegans, in an at-random survey, appear to be happy, and in education, slightly above other cities of our same size. But our city and its residents are not without problems. 74,000 San Diego County residents suffer from the effects of the most abused drug in the United States, alcohol. Alcohol in the form of liquor is legal, unlike many other addictive drugs, and it is easy to get. Just look around you. All of this is not to say that everyone who drinks abuses alcohol. But the people we will be talking to and about in this program tonight are victims of alcoholism. We'll not be talking about the alcoholic who winds up in the drunk tank week after week. Instead, we'll look at the people who have jobs and oftentimes are respected, but suffer from alcoholism. These are the people who, on their way home from work in the evening, have to stop off for a drink or 2 or 3 or 4. Alcoholics generally have more in common with each other than just their alcoholism.
You just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing fine. We appreciate all the work that you've put in and all the training. I think that this industry will do real good for you if you do good for it.
Well, I'm glad of the opportunity. You gave me the opportunity. Believe me, I'll make it up to you. All the way up.
Here's to you. That sale today you made was absolutely fantastic. That was the greatest sale that this company has ever seen. I know how hard you worked on it. You put a lot of time. You went under a lot of pressure. I think you did a great job.
Eddie, good salesman could have sold it because you trained me and you gave me the product.
All right, then I'll drink to me.
To us.
All right.
How about another one, Carl?
Fine, I'll buy. How about another one?
It's been noted time and time again that alcoholism all too frequently strikes the most promising member of a family, or in the case of Calvin Miller, the most promising member of a business. Granted, alcoholism can also strike the dull, the mediocre, and the misfit. Nevertheless, the alcoholic very often seems to be a little more alert, a little better at his job, a little more intelligent than his fellows in their particular social or economic level.
Let's drink to us.
I drank my way to the top as a controlled social drinker. At a very early age 26, I was the head of a national worldwide firm. From that point, I drank my way to the bottom. Excuse me, I really couldn't tell. I knew that I drank differently than most people, that I required more, and I drank faster and more of it. But other people recognized my drinking habits as being different than theirs, family, wife, employers. And yet, I couldn't accept this as being true. It was necessary for me to drink to function. And just to be in the social swim of life, I had to drink to be there. I had to drink in order to any sales job I was on, any social functions that I went to. I lived in great fear of knowing that I was different than other people, that I couldn't control my drinking as hard as much as I wanted to. My life revolved around alcohol. I had to have alcohol in order to survive, and yet I was a functioning drunk. I was successful in business because I gravitated to people in business who also drank. I sought them as companions and equals. I was able to make good deals for the people that I represented because I would do a lot of entertaining. And I don't find it necessary to do that today. You know, I can be myself. It's not necessary to drink. I've increased my earning capacity by over 50% in the past year, where 8 years ago I had drank myself into the bottom and then started back up and fell again.
For the recovering alcoholic, there was a dependence on drink to stimulate that something that normal drinkers and non-drinkers manage to do for themselves, with or without the aid of alcohol. For him, there is nor any drop to drink. The Department of Health, Education, and Welfare has issued a report on alcoholism in the United States. This report notes that alcohol is the major drug problem in this country today, affecting 10 million people. On a nationwide basis, the HEW report attributed 33,000 traffic deaths to the drinking driver, and locally in San Diego, in the year just past 1971, 1,521 accidents involved intoxicated drivers. And the Health, Education, and Welfare report goes on to say that alcoholism is to blame for an annual loss of $15 billion to our nation's business. $10 million of that national figure comes from a loss to San Diego business through absenteeism and immobility of the alcoholic employee. While the Health, Education, and Welfare Report contains startling figures, most of it is not new. Alcoholism has been a major problem in the United States for more than 100 years. This report informs us only that the problem is getting worse. In 1913 and the years during World War I, this nation's third and most effective drive for prohibition developed. The Anti-Saloon League and the Women's Christian Temperance Union pointed to films of the day like this one with Charlie Chaplin, who plays a drunk, how bad alcohol was for our society in general. Their successful campaign culminated in the 18th Amendment to the Constitution, adopted in 1919, imposing nationwide prohibition in 1920. After 13 years of frustrated trial, national prohibition was repealed in the United States by the 21st Amendment to the Constitution. In spite of prohibition, alcoholism still remained a problem in the United States. The most visible victims of alcoholism today are the inhabitants of our skid rows. But in San Diego, the Skid Row alcoholic represents only 3 to 5% of this city's alcoholic population. Most of the nation's and this city's alcoholics are the working and the homemaking population. The professional woman and the housewife alike are often victims of the disease of drinking, and their drinking problem is not shared by them alone. Their actions or inactions can directly affect the lives of as many as 10 other people that they come in daily contact with. The housewife is the most difficult to ferret out because she is so well protected. Many couples live together for years before the husband realizes his wife is an alcoholic. He knows she drinks too much and he knows she is sick most of the time, but he does not realize what is really wrong.
Well, my drinking progressed over a period of 15 years. I'd say that 8 of them were just weekend. And then I reached a point where I crossed over a line where I no longer could manage to just drink on weekends. Drinking became more of a daily thing. And as I got sicker, the drinking became worse, and the shame became worse. I can remember very clearly thinking that I didn't care anymore. And although I knew this not to be true, this was the obsession of the mind. The people and the things in my life that mattered most, my husband and my children, became secondary. I learned to drink for every occasion. The need was there and I had to drink. There was no choice. It had control of me. I no longer had control of it. As it progressed, different things started happening, warnings, that made me realize that it was out of control. And during this time, I did ask for help. I went to a doctor who meant well when he suggested that I quit drinking because I would become an alcoholic, and I realize now that at this point I was an alcoholic. And he gave me pills to relieve my tensions, but it didn't relieve my drinking problem. It just allowed me to drink more. Then I went to someone in my religion, a priest, and he meant well when he asked me to do it for my children, do it for my husband. At that point, I couldn't do it for myself. There's a possibility that it might be easier for a woman, because a woman can hide her dark secret in her own home. She can acquire her alcohol, bring it home, drink it in her own kitchen, as I did many, many times. And then when the tears came, or the bad feelings, she could lock herself in her own bedroom and escape from it all. I think perhaps a man has to go out into the world and do his job, and he has to put on more of a front. In your own home, you can be just as miserable as you care to be.
No battle against a public health problem can gain a significant victory if it attends only to the casualties. If appropriate treatment of persons who abuse alcohol is given in time, then perhaps this dread disease that destroys life itself can be wiped out. But how do we recognize the symptoms of alcoholism? And when we do, how do we go about treating them? First of all, what are the symptoms? Stop for a moment. See if any of these apply to you. Are you difficult to get along with when you are drinking? Do you drink because you are depressed? Do you drink to calm your nerves? Do you drink until you are dead drunk at times? You can't remember parts of some drinking episodes. Do you hide liquor? Do you lie about your drinking? Do you neglect to eat when you drink? Do you tend to neglect your family while you are drinking? These are the early warning signals in detecting alcoholism. What if these symptoms of the disease of alcoholism do apply to you? Where can you go for confidential help?
National Council on Alcoholism.
There are 32 agencies in San Diego County that work to combat alcoholism. One such agency is the National Council on Alcoholism. A representative of that organization can be reached on a 24-hour basis via a telephone hotline.
3 days. And how long have you been drinking? 20 years. And what do you drink? You drink everything, my goodness.
In a recent survey conducted by the National Council on Alcoholism, they determined that the general public and social service agencies tend to categorize the alcoholic as a skid row bum, and that the church minister or the business executive that gets picked up on a drunk driving charge merely got caught in the system. Somehow they don't believe that the professional man or woman can suffer from alcoholism. 15 years ago, this man was a down-and-out alcoholic. He is Harold Hughes, a United States Senator from the state of Iowa. Today, he is one of the nation's chief fighters of alcoholism. He has recovered from this disease.
Hopefully, when we place this in perspective, what has been a commonly used drug, an enjoyable drug for the most people, but used by 85% of American people, that creates so much tragedy in our society, we can begin to put in perspective rather than looking at it as a big joke, you know, when someone is intoxicated.
Over the long range, do you see need for further legislation and for much increase in the current level of appropriations, assuming you get the increase you said you hope to get?
Yes, I think the increase will have to continue over the course of the next 3 to 4 years, in my opinion, primarily because we have so many alcoholics and problem drinkers in the country. Approximately 9 million chronic alcoholics and another 9 million problem drinkers. The contribution of that, you know, about 40% of the beds in the mental hospitals are filled, for example, with alcoholic patients. About half the people in our prisons are there because of an alcohol relationship to the crime they committed. About half the deaths on our highways, 28 to 30,000 a year, are attributable to alcohol use and alcohol abuse. So the growth, in order to gear up in prevention as well as treatment and rehabilitation, and I want to emphasize that I am convinced that alcoholism can be prevented in the majority of instances. The signs are clearly discernible. We can see it in individuals developing. There's ways to stop that mechanism of progression into alcoholism. Also in research, there's very high evidence that perhaps as much as 30 to 40% of the total volume of chronic alcoholics may suffer from a biochemical imbalance at birth that makes them intolerant to alcohol and unable to help the fact that they are alcoholics. Research, concentrated research in the fields of biochemistry as well as other related fields, I believe, can bring us into an era of understanding and controlling alcoholism as a disease in America.
Colleges and universities across the country are carrying out research programs into the cause of alcoholism. Much research is being done here in our own community at the medical school at the University of California at San Diego. The search for a single cause of alcoholism may be an unrealistic goal. Nevertheless, researchers with specialized interests and with needs to define alcoholism from their own perspectives will probably continue to look for a unitary answer to solve the problem of how alcohol addiction occurs. Some scientists believe that that breakthrough could be 20 years away. For the 74,000 alcoholics of San Diego County, help is needed now. Not just for the late-stage alcoholic, but help in preventing new cases of alcoholism.